Welcome to Politics Unplugged. I'm Ann Trujillo, and this was a big week for President Trump, who delivered his first State of the Union address.
So let's come together, set politics aside, and finally get the job done.
All right, so how did he do? Well, reaction to the president's address, as you might expect, split along party lines as he hit on many familiar themes. The president announced $1.5 trillion in infrastructure. That's to fix things like roads and bridges and tunnels. He wants to make sure that money is closely paired with state and local money. He says he's also open to privatization projects like our express lanes. The president highlighted our strong economy, pointing to tax cut bonuses many companies have handed out to an estimated 3 million workers. 200,000 new manufacturing jobs have been created. He did not mention blue-collar or new economy jobs, and he doubled down on minority unemployment numbers, reiterating his claim that African-American unemployment is the lowest ever, and added Hispanic unemployment is at its lowest. Both claims are true, yet he neglected to mention the gaps that exist in those numbers when compared to white workers. And as promised, the president laid out the 4 pillars of his immigration reform plan. Something Congress has already been working on: a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, a border wall, ending the immigration visa lottery program, and ending chain migration.
Under the current broken system, a single immigrant can bring in virtually unlimited numbers of distant relatives. Under our plan, we focus on the immediate family by limiting sponsorships to spouses and minor children.
The president presents himself as generous toward dreamers, but he's holding them hostage to the most extreme anti-immigrant agenda in generations.
Well, joining us to talk about some of what the president's immigration plan means for Colorado is Julie Gonzalez, the policy director at the Meyer Law Firm. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
First, just to clear the air a little bit, I know you work on behalf of your clients who are dealing with immigration issues, but what is the status of processing right now? Are things on hold? Because that's the impression I think a lot of people get.
You know, it's so confusing, and we're trying to make sense of a broken system. And so the president in September of last year announced that he would wind down the DACA program, which allows over 17,000 young people here in Colorado work and live lawfully here in the United States. And there were several lawsuits that took place after the president did announce the end of that program, and due to a federal injunction, we do have a small window of opportunity for young people to continue submitting their renewal applications, but we're really operating under a ticking time clock. The program is set to expire on March the 5th, and so folks are really just confused and trying to make sense of what is a deeply broken system.
Well, and I think those of us on the outside, too, are trying to understand where things stand. So have some DACA recipients lost their privileges as they wait for this March deadline, or what's the status there?
You know, some people have fallen out of status. Earlier this month, there was an opportunity for people to start submitting their renewal applications again, and so people are really in limbo, and it's very confusing right now. There are some people who have fallen out of status and are back to being undocumented. There are some people who've fallen out of status and have submitted renewal applications, and they're waiting for a response from the government. And you know, that system is so backlogged and slow that it could be months before they receive a response as to whether or not they'll actually receive their renewal application approved or not.
So as you hear from your clients, and I suspect you hear from them constantly, what are they saying about where things stand?
There is such a deep anxiety within community, and you know, as the policy director, I work as a paralegal, helping folks to make that decision. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Should I submit the renewal application or not? And following the guidance of the families and then also of the attorneys to help make that decision. And there's so much anxiety right now within community as to what's going to happen, and really we're seeing politicians play games with people's lives. And Congress, there's so much bipartisan support for actually a DACA solution and passing a Clean Dream Act, and yet we're seeing the Republican Party and unfortunately we're seeing Donald Trump play games
Well, I think people are frustrated on all sides, with every political party, that this comes down to a deadline, much like the budget issues. The president calls it, though, a down-the-middle compromise. Do you see that? What's your view?
Absolutely not. Unfortunately, Donald Trump has moved the goalposts as to what a secure border looks like, and as has his Republican Party year after year after year. And so under the Obama administration, we saw deportations skyrocket. We saw the border become more secure than it ever had been. And so what did the Republican Party go and do? They moved the goalposts and then said, well, now we want this entirely other set of metrics. And so at a certain point, you have to say, what are we going to be able to get to yes on? And what is absolutely clear when you poll the American people is folks want to allow the dreamers the ability to continue to live and work here in the United States. There was just a poll that came out here in Colorado just this past month that said 71% of Coloradans want to see a DACA solution, and that includes 52% of Republicans who want to see dreamers be allowed to stay here and have a path to citizenship.
Well, and I think a lot of people, no matter what your political affiliation, people just want answers, or just want to know what the decision is. You know, I know one of the things you took issue with the president talking about dreamers and talking about them, equating them to MS-13 gang members. He was talking about 2 teens killed by gang members. Their parents were there in the audience during the speech. Listen in.
6 members of the savage MS-13 gang have been charged with Kayla and Nisa's murders. Many of these gang members took advantage of glaring loopholes in our laws to enter the country as illegal, unaccompanied alien minors, and wound up in Kayla and Nisa's high school.
And so why do you take issue with that?
That's absolutely a tragedy. But the vast majority of immigrants in our communities are hardworking, good and honest people. And what we need to see is a pathway for people who want to go through the process of going through a background check, going through and submitting their applications proactively to the government, for them to have a path to be able to do so. You know, a lot of times folks will say, well, how come people just don't get in line and do it the right way? For DACA recipients, that's exactly what they have done. They have gone forward, proactively submitted their applications, and have to go through a background check, cannot have any felony convictions, cannot have certain criminal convictions, in order to be able to receive that DACA status.
And just want answers, I'm sure.
There's just so much anxiety within community.
Thank you so much for the insight. I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
Stay with us. We're talking about the Olympics and 4-day school weeks when we come back.